Are you struggling to add native files like .so, .mk, and .cpp in Android Studio? You're not alone. Many developers face this challenge, and today we're going to solve it together. I totally get it. Transitioning from Eclipse to Android Studio can be tricky, especially when it comes to managing native files. It can feel overwhelming, but don't worry. We will break it down step by step. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. A user asked how to add .so, .mk, .sh, and .cpp files in their Android Studio project. They mentioned that in Eclipse, .so files went into the libs folder, while other files were placed in JNI and obj folders. Let's dive into their setup and find a solution. So what seems to be the issue? The user has already placed their .so files in the JNI libs folder and made changes to the Gradle file. However, they are still encountering errors during the build process. Let's understand what's going wrong. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of how to properly add these native files and avoid common pitfalls. To begin resolving the user's issue, we need to ensure that the native files are correctly placed in the project structure. The user should place the .so files in the JNI libs folder, which is the standard location for native libraries in Android Studio. Next, the user should modify the build.gradle file to include the necessary configurations. This involves specifying the source sets for the JNI libs and disabling automatic NDK build calls. After that, the user needs to ensure that the external native build is set up correctly. This means pointing to the android.mk file that contains the build instructions for the native code. Finally, the user should check the logs for any errors during the build process. If there are errors related to missing files, they should verify that all paths in the android.mk file are correct and that all necessary source files are included. Fun fact, did you know that the Android NDK allows you to use C and C++ code in your apps? This can significantly improve performance for certain tasks. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. An alternative approach shared by another user involves specifying the path to your .mk file in the module-level build.gradle file. You can do this within the Android block by using the external native build section. Additionally, it's important to note that the directory structure suggested earlier isn't mandatory. You can place your .mk and .cpp files anywhere, as long as you correctly specify their locations in either the build.gradle or android.mk. Now, let's dive into a different answer from another user. An alternative approach for adding native files in Android Studio involves organizing your project with a mains JNI folder. Inside this folder, you should place your libraries and native source files. You'll need to create two essential files, android.mk and application.mk. The android.mk file is used to build your native libraries and can include flags for building both static and shared libraries. In the application.mk file, you can specify build modes and architectures. Make sure to check your NDK path in the local.properties file and adjust your Gradle build scripts to point to the correct locations for your shared libraries and makefiles. Let's check out another perspective from a different user. An alternative solution from another user highlights that the error may stem from an incorrect path to a source file in your android.mk. They suggest checking the paths specified in android.mk, as they should be relative to the location of the android.mk file itself. Here's a pro tip. Always double-check your file paths and ensure that all necessary files are included in your project structure. This can save you a lot of headaches. And there you have it. With these steps, you should be able to add your native files in Android Studio without any issues. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and tricks.